Welcome to New Mexico Entertainment Television, your place to be in the know for all things events and entertainment in New Mexico. I'm Teresa Robinson, and it is Pride Month. So tonight we cover pride in oneself, projects, and the community. Tonight we have on our show star of the Apple TV Plus series Physical, Dierdre Friel. We also have profiles from the Legendary House of LaBeija. So let's get started. Dierdre Friel has created a stunning career in entertainment, starring in such films and television shows as New Amsterdam, The Sopranos, Second Act, and Tales of the City. Playing Greta in the Apple TV Plus show Physical, she is showing an empowering side to a sometimes typecasted role. Today she talks about the upcoming second season and her new project with Ray Romano. Thank you so much for doing this today. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
So when I saw the trailer for Physical, I so wanted to watch this. I'm a fan of anything 80s. If it's 80s, I'll watch it.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah, but I have to say, this show was awesome. I enjoyed every minute of it. I binge watched it within 2 days, even when I try to be like, no, I'm gonna take a break and try to, but I could not stop watching it. And I loved your character, the camaraderie of the whole cat, like everything worked so well.
Thank you.
Yes. What was it about this project that drew you to play Greta?
A couple years ago, I had said to my reps, I didn't want to play any more things that were for plus-sized women.
Mhm.
I'm not under any illusion of what I look like, but I have often found in the film and TV industry and in theater, I guess to some degree, when you have that descriptor, it means something about you. You must have low self-esteem, or you're the butt of a joke, or something like that. And aside from the fact that my self-esteem didn't need that kick, I don't find that I have low self-esteem. So I was like not booking those roles because I sort of came across too confident. So I was like, don't submit me for that stuff anymore. Anyway, so this project comes along, and I don't think that descriptor was in the breakdown for the character, but I read the scene, and one of my audition scenes was very much about me talking about how I ate all this food and and I didn't know what I thought about it, but my manager said, he goes, it's a really good project. There's some really good people on it. Let's give it a look. And then when we get to like the next phase, we can sort of talk to them more about where the character is going. So I said, okay, if there's a point, if it's for a better purpose. And then when we did get to that phase and I got a bigger picture of what was going on in the story, I thought how empowering all of a sudden it felt to look the way I did. And that was so wonderful that then it made me very excited to move ahead with the project, because I don't feel that women of substance get always the same kind of representation and the chance to be like, I do look like this and I'm fine with it. I feel great about it.
I think that's what I enjoyed most about the character. I mean, honestly, from that character, I didn't see as, and I get what you mean when it comes to plus size women have a particular moniker. It's like, okay, they have to be like this. And I did not see that with Greta, but you saw signs of growth. And I mean, honestly, for me, I just like the idea of your character goes through what a lot of women go through on a daily basis, whether it's weight, whether it's marriage issues, whether it's just your own personal grievances about yourself.
Right.
Wraps that all into one character.
And I think you'll be excited to see where she goes in season 2. But what I liked about her was, I think like any woman, her appearance is some struggle, especially in the 80s, right? Like
exactly.
We forget sometimes. I think that there's national conversations happening now that we haven't gotten as far away from some of those conversations as we think we have. And I love where she gets to go in season 2, because even the things that she struggles with in season 1 about being a mom, about being a housewife, about wondering whether she can do more or whether she's worth more. And I think that's something that I've heard from a lot of women, that they like and relate to about sort of how that character is. So I'm really proud to play her.
Well, I'm excited to see season 2 is going to be premiering here on June 3rd.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
there anything that you can share? Because I know gags have to happen, but is there anything you can share about the new season?
We have some really special guest stars this season. I know one of them who's been announced, Murray Bartlett, who I got to shoot with, the wonderful actor Murray Bartlett, who very recently was also doing White Lotus. And I will tell you, when we got him, I had seen White Lotus, and I was like, before we got him, I went, wow, this guy is so good. This guy's a really good actor. And then he joined our cast, and I met him, and I don't often get very like, but I was like, oh my God, oh my gosh, hi. Nice to meet you. And he is the nicest man, and what an actor. So I think you guys are going to enjoy what he does this season. He's a lot of fun.
Well, I have to say, I was really excited just to see you on a series again. I loved you on New Amsterdam.
Oh,
and
thank you.
When I found out you were leaving the show, I was like, well, so, and then of course you came back for, which was a very sad episode that we actually lost a cast member on the show.
Yeah.
And so, but it was like, considering the circumstances, it was great to see you on there again. So, I mean, and I just like with that cast in this one, the connection that I feel on screen with you and everybody else just feels authentic. What is the camaraderie like on set with the rest of the cast?
For on what show?
For physical.
Okay.
Sorry, I have to step back into the New Amsterdam part, but
it's so nice for me to be able to go, what project do you want to talk about? Because I also did a movie this year that's coming out in a couple of weeks that like also was a great, I've had a lot of fortune in the projects I've gotten to do in my life, but especially in the last 5 to 7 years, that the casts have really had sort of a familial kind of feel. Everyone feels like, a family in a certain way. And I love that about Physical, is that one of my favorite things about Physical is that everyone has a great funny bone. Like everyone's really funny.
Yeah.
And the writing is so good. Annie Weissman and our wonderful writers room is so smart and so good. They give us such great scripts, but they also will allow us on takes to kind of have a little wiggle room and ad lib at each other and stuff a little bit. And Rory Scovel just always makes me laugh. And I just kind of love his humor and the way he goes, like he'll throw something at me that I never expect. And so then I'm trying not to laugh or to throw something back at him because, Greta and Danny don't exactly have the most friendly relationship. So it's been really, really fun to have those relationships. And Rose too, gosh, she's so funny. And we really have a great time together. So it makes even the days when you're doing really hard scenes or really sad scenes go more, not smoothly, but like, it's just hard work on your body and on your, on your psyche to like be so intense. So the good vibes just help you kind of ease in and out of that day. I don't know if that made any sense, but
that does make sense. That does make sense. So do you feel with this show, I always seem to hear stories about actors that are on a set and writers, producers, directors have their vision and they want that vision, and they're just not keen on moving away from hearing any other ideas. Do you feel like with your character, you can add input when you see something in a script and go, you know what, I'm not feeling she would do that. This is what I'm thinking, that they're open to hearing your suggestions?
Oh, this team is so open and so incredible. We're very lucky. Steph Lang, who directed almost all of our episodes in both seasons, and Annie Weissman are so open. But I often don't feel that has to happen from my character, because when I see something, I go, yeah, that's exactly right. And when there have been 1 or 2 times where I'll be like, wait a minute. But then when I get the next episode, or not even wait a minute, but like, I don't know where this is going. But then when you get sort of the scope of the whole season, sometimes there are seeds you're planting in episodes like 1 or 2 that are paying off in like 8. So it might seem very strange early on that you go, But then when you see where it comes out the other side of the tunnel, you're like, oh, wow, that was cool, you know? So
Yeah. So I have to ask, being that I'm a shaven haired person myself, did you actually shave your head for
that's
this?
so funny. That is what everyone asks me, that people are Googling that about me, like all of these things. So no, I didn't. The short answer is no, I didn't, because in season 1, we had to shoot the whole series as like a big lump. So normally, like the way we would have shot New Amsterdam is you're kind of doing the episode in the week. And sometimes you're doing scenes a little out of order, but you're doing an episode a week or an episode every 2 weeks. For physical, because of COVID and because of locations, on the same day, we were shooting from episode 2, episode 8, and episode 1.
Oh,
like
wow.
all of, right. So if I had shaved my head, then when we had to go shoot early stuff, it wouldn't have worked. So actually, and I had more hair last season. It was like a little bit longer and stuff. My wonderful, the head of the hair department, Kent, had to like glue. I'd have to go in like 2 hours early, and he would glue all my hair down to my head. I mean, like,
oh my God.
With, yeah. And we would have to like glue it down, and then he got it so flat, but I couldn't believe, and then he built that wig. It was a wig that he built. And then we would put a, you know, like a cap on and put the wig on. And sometimes he'd have to dapple a little bit just to make sure that, you know, you weren't seeing the netting coming through. But yeah. And then we would glue the edges and stuff down. So it was crazy. And then there would be times last season where also then I'd had a wig on a wig. So then I'd have to have another wig that could come off while the other wig was staying on. And it was a wig on a wig on a wig.
I have to say that storyline was interesting to me only because of the fact that when I shaved my head, which was an absolute choice, I had 3 kids at this point, and I was done. I was done with styling and relaxing my hair. And so when I saw this happen in the show, and it was seen as like this attractive, fierce like moment, I was like, okay, I'm glad with that. I'm good with that. So I was actually
good. I'm glad you felt that way.
Yeah, I did. It was nothing that I saw as, because I'm sure people were like, is this supposed to be a fetish? For me, I saw this as this empowering moment of, yes, hair means a lot to some women, but for other women, it could be an empowering moment to just shave it off. And that's how I saw it.
It's something that I remember when I read the script, I was actually surprised. I went, I would do it. I just thought to myself, I would do it. I'm kind of glad they didn't make me do it, because I am very attached to my hair. And luckily also I was going right into another project. So it would have been hard to go, hey, so I have no hair now. So because of my job also, where your hair is at is like, you know.
See, you have very good reason. I at this point, I'm like, my whole thing is I get to do interviews. So I'm like,
and you know what? No muss, no fuss, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's done. But I was surprised I was willing to do it, but it is such a beauty thing. So in that storyline, the idea of letting it go was like for the couple too, right? So empowering, like, no, like this is, you know, you're just really, it's like being naked. It's just like standing there being like, this is who I am. And I was also told I was very lucky because I got to see what the shape of my head would look like before I shaved it. Because some people shave their heads apparently, and then they go, "Oh God!"
That's how frustrated I was that I didn't even think about that until after the fact. And I was like, "Oh, thank God!"
Oh, yours is fabulous. It looks so good. Yeah,
thank you.
And you have such a beautiful face, you know. So really, it's beautiful.
It does. It just opens everything. I still have women that will stop me in the store and just tap me on the shoulder and be like, I just want to say, I applaud you for doing that. I'm like, thanks. I mean, you can do it too if you want. I'm not trying to be encouraged.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know that you just recently started an upcoming project with Ray Romano.
Yes.
And I was somewhere in Queens. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that project.
Yeah, so it's going to be at the Tribeca Film Festival this year, which is really exciting. It's going to be really cool to do a New York movie with Ray Romano. I'm really excited about that. And it's a story about a man and his son. I think it's it's a real love letter to Queens, because I think that means a lot to Ray. Ray wrote the movie with his writing partner Mark Stegman, and directed the movie and starred in the movie. So
Wow.
yeah, and he was amazing, and he was amazing at all of them. So it was like really impressive to watch, and it's his first time directing. I know that a feature film, so it was like just really amazing to watch him do that. But yeah, I get to play his sister. It was really fun. Sebastian Maniscalco plays our middle brother, so it's Ray and then Sebastian and me.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's really fun. It was great. Laurie Metcalf plays his wife.
Wow.
It's a great cast, and I think it's a really good movie. I'm really excited for people to see it.
So you've talked about, that you love talking about projects, and, you've been on everything from The Sopranos to, I love the movie Second Act, your character on that. Oh, I loved her. So what would you say just now, out of the projects you've done so far, has been one that you walked away from saying, oh goodness, I'm so glad I've done that? I know it could be for all of them, but is there one that stands out more than the others?
My first answer was going to be, there's something I've really been proud about in everything I've done, which I'm so lucky to be able to say that, aren't I? But I think right now, yeah, I think the two projects I'm talking about right now, both Physical and Somewhere in Queens, like I'm really proud to work with those people. I'm really proud about both stories that are getting to come out, and it's also really influencing some of the stuff I'm developing and working on now, of like these that I'm able to be really conscious about the stories I want to tell, and say what's important to talk about, or what are things that I feel like what's important, what's something that somebody who looks like and behaves like me can talk about. So I really am proud of these two projects, big time.
Do you think you'll see yourself behind the camera instead of in front?
I don't know. I'm such a theater girl. I grew up doing tons of theater, and I could see myself directing theater. I thought about it for a little while, and I've done some small things. Behind the camera, it's such a different thing, like knowing all the kinds of lenses and the setups of the shots and all of the pre-pro. I still feel every time I do a project like I'm learning about it. So I don't know. I never say no. I write. I'm a writer, so I get that. That makes sense to me, and is stuff I can kind of engage in. I think, I don't know, maybe someday.
Is there anything that you have thought to yourself, I'm going to write about this and see where it goes from there? Or is it mostly just journal writing? What kind of writing?
Oh, no. I do. I actually have, that's so funny you said that. I have started journaling again lately. I have a couple projects I'm working on with some friends. I have nothing I think I'm allowed to talk about specifics about, because everything's so still in development. But I have one thing that I am pretty excited about that I think might have some pretty good legs on it. And it's also all very different genres. So it's like, I'm exploring, like a horror film, which I never thought I would do, but like, it's really interesting to me. So like, yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what comes out.
Very exciting. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today, Dierdre. I appreciate it. And I am looking forward. I watched it so quickly, I'm going to have to watch it again. So I'm looking forward for Physical season 2 to be out, and it's right around the corner. So I'm excited.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to visit with you today.
It was nice to visit with you too. And we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
The following interview is sponsored by Pride and Equality magazine.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say, when it comes to the story of houses and ballroom, it really has been, it's really been a topic for some youth growing up today. They've now got this exposure through shows like Pose or Legendary. So I have to go to the house to ask you, what has it been? Has the experience been like for you to be part of this family, to be part of this legacy, and how did it all begin? Jeffrey, if you don't mind, I'll start with you.
And let's do the ladies first, but yeah, you can start with me. Well, I came in the ballroom in 1987, and LaBeija was not my first house. I came into the House of LaBeija in 2012. And when I first joined the house, you know, of course I knew about the House of LaBeija in the 80s. I knew about the house, but it was different when I came in. And when I came in, I was actually going through a transition myself, like getting back into working after we went through the recession in 2008 with Obama. So like I was going through a transition as well. And when I came into the house, you know, my focus was like, okay, I get it, but I'm older now. I need to focus on this new job and really get the hang of that. But somewhere around 2014, I got into the legacy of this house. And then it became about what I was set out to do always, which is service. And I realized what I was facing upon, especially what the house was going through back then. It was really just about this house having a legacy, and people, you know, like social media was starting to take over, and there was always opportunity, but nobody was doing preservation. And for some reason, it just felt like that was my job in this house. I need to figure out how to preserve this house. I need to focus on preservation and service. And I just took off from there. I started making it not about me. I started making it about the members, and I started empowering. And then I decided to even go and take it further and focus on the girls, because that's what ballroom started with. It was about celebrating transgender women and cisgender women. Men did not come in ballroom till 1974. And it was the pioneer, Junior LaBeija, that was the first male member allowed to be celebrate within ballroom, and other gentlemen followed him. So I was like, let's take it back to what ballroom really was. And then I found myself, you know, being at the forefront of a leadership with the house and putting women up front. You know, like Samil became mother, Vivian became the overall mother at the time. She is now queen mother. Jasmine became the international mother, and all these amazing things. And I can only talk about the House of LaBeija, not other houses, but we have women at the forefront. And like, it's their responsibility what they want to do with their titles. But you can't say in today's Generation Z that in the House of LaBeija, the women are not at the forefront, because they actually are. And then when this project, and I'll slow it down with that, when this project happened, I felt so humbled by watching these women be celebrated in their authenticity and their beauty and just the natural aura of who they are. And I'm really lucky because I don't have a surface relationship with them. I know them all individually and what they're about. And I just feel so honored to be a part of this project and just to know them on that level.
Yeah, that is some kind words. You do live. And oh goodness. No, actually I'm gonna go to the house mother next here. And you got a mighty job holding up a whole household of children. How did it even come about?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, like Jeff said, it's all about leadership. So we work as a team, and like he said, he worked to have us females in the front face, like forward. So I feel like that empowered all of us, having them as our backup and pushing us. So that gave me a sense of, I'm going to say, tranquility, because I did feel like it was overwhelming having to take on this title without the knowledge. It was just handed off to me. So with the work that I started putting in my service and what I was giving, I was able to grow within my title and earning the position that I now have.
So I have to ask then, I mean, I don't want to say you were thrust, because obviously if you guys are working as a team, everybody's seeing something in everyone to land, to have like coveted spots within the house. So what do you feel they saw in you that would make you a good mother?
Like Jeff said, I do have individual relationships with everyone in the house. So it's all about the relationships that we have individually, not as a team. And we get to know each other on that level. We get to see what we've been through, relate that as well. I come from a family that was broken. So now I'm in a family that was also broken, because we did have a separation at once. So now we're united. And that's something that makes me happy, because I was broken at once. And I speak about that in the short film. And now we are together as a whole. So that empowers us to keep moving forward and thrive as a family.
So Giovanna, I will go to you next. How did your journey begin with the House of LaBeija, and what difference has it made for you?
Yeah, I am relatively new to ballroom. I joined my first house around 2016, 2017, and then joined the LaBeijas around 2 to 3 years later. And so by the time I joined the LaBeijas, I had an idea of like what I liked about ballroom. I knew that I was really attracted to the culture and the history and the legacy of ballroom as a cultural institution and creative platform, and seeing its history bring us to today. I always respected the House of LaBeija because it is the first house. It is a house that, as Pepper has famously said, the name speaks for itself. So by the time I arrived to the LaBeijas, I knew like, this is a place that, though you don't necessarily know anyone that well at first, I was scouted at a ball. One of the former members saw me, tapped me, was like, hey, I like the way that you vogue. And at this time, this was pre my transition. And so I'm coming into this space completely new. I don't know anyone, but I'm open to the experience of getting to know people. And because something that has always been stressed in the LaBeijas to me is that they were very, very family focused, whether or not that was always like presented in the best ways, which, as Samil has said, it definitely is a core value now. And so leading with that energy of like, oh, there are people here. And Kitty was one of the first people, if not the first person ever, that I spoke to in the house, made a connection with, who spoke to me individually and was like, I see something in you. Let me like form a relationship with you and turn it into something. And that just continued for now almost 3 years, taking me through a pandemic transition to come out, on the proverbial other side, into Tribeca. And so that means to me, the LaBeijas, like, as I said, we're the first house. We have gone through a lot in the history of this house, ups and downs, rises in the popularity within ballroom, on the floor and off. And I think the legacy of preservation that brings us to this current moment is like the thing that has really carried me through, is like how strong this house actually is.
So Bougie and Jasmine, thank you for joining us. So the question I was asking, since you were just now coming in, was how did the house experience, how's it been for you? And how did your journey begin? Did either one of you want to go first?
I mean, I was gonna let Mother go first, but I guess I'm gonna go first. So for me, it's been a long journey, even like before joining the house, and like it was such a pivotal moment in my life because I'm from a very strict African and religious background, and when I got to the United States, it was a whole different story for me. It was this straight guy. And even when, like now, when I look at my old pictures, I'm like, oh my God, you're not as feminine as you thought you was. But because I forced it into myself. And then at one point, I just couldn't take it anymore. Like last year, in 2020, I couldn't stay in my, when COVID started, was it 2020, 2021? I was in the house with my family, well, my blood relatives, and I couldn't live there anymore because I couldn't live in my truth. It just couldn't like stay contained inside myself. So when the show Pose came out, I started like watching it with interest, and I started researching. I started watching all these documentaries on the internet, and then I hear about the House of LaBeija, and especially in Paris is Burning, the regular one that was shot, and then the outtakes, I see how Pepe LaBeija is talking about her family, talking about her children. There was this other documentary as well. How Do I Look, that came out after she died. You could see how she made an impact in her family and in the ballroom scene. So like that was one of the reasons why my eye was so caught by this house, and I was like, yeah, this is the type of thing I want, like a family that's gonna give me what the one I have doesn't want to give me. And that's what they've given me so far till this day. The freedom I needed, the space I needed to like come out of my shell, the push that I needed to come out of my shell. Because before I joined this house, I was extremely shy. All of them can attest to that. I couldn't speak or anything. And now my behavior with this family has totally changed my life. It has like spilled into my day-to-day life, because now I'm more confident. Now I can speak up for myself. Now I can stand up for myself. Now I know that I'm not alone, even when I think I'm alone, because it's easy to think that when you don't have like people that like really support you where you need it. But they support me every time, check up on me every time, more than like my blood relatives, which these people are also like jealous because I have a better relationship with my LaBeija family than my blood family. Yeah, I'm always defending my position with these people, but these are people that I love dearly, and yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The connection with you all is beautiful. So Jasmine, how about you?
Well, I joined this house by chance because my friend was in the house and I saw like everyone else and a lot of new kids, Paris is Burning and stuff like that. But I was just recently thinking about everything that has come into my life, and I don't believe that anything just happened by chance. I think everything has a meaning, and that there's a bigger plan. And there is actually an old saying in Korea that translates to, when animals die, they leave their fur, and when humans die, they leave their name. And I feel like I'm destined to leave my name behind. And I think that's why I'm in the house, because I am destined. I mean, look at the legacy. Look at what all these amazing house, and which is also the blueprint of ballroom, has done. And all these wonderful POC women have led society too. I mean, without ballroom and without people like Crystal LaBeija and Peppa, Moldavia, and the list goes on and on and on and on, where would we be? I mean, the whole queer culture and this openness and this creativity and the social construct, breaking down the social construct and building new ones. It all basically comes from these POC queer community and ballroom. And what a blessing to be a part of that legacy and part of history, because that's what we are, you know?
So Naomi, thank you for taking the time out to do this interview today. I feel like the way I should start it is by asking, what brings you joy today?
The fact that you asked that question. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I got to see the film. I know it came out, if I understand, last year with all the craziness of the pandemic happening and whatnot. And I just found it incredible that not only did you put out this movie, but you also accompanied it with a whole, breakdown of like having a party that to go. I mean, how did that all come about?
So both my producing partner, Sarah Wharton, and I had released previous movies through sort of more traditional distribution channels and worked with distribution companies and whatever. And we'd had kind of an unfulfilling experience with that just as storytellers, because so much of like working with a distributor now is just like releasing your film out into the ether, and then you never meet the people on the other side. And like, that's just not great. Not only is it sort of emotionally unfulfilling to spend 4 years making a thing and then not get to experience an audience experiencing it, but it also isn't that great as an artist, because like you need feedback. Like
exactly.
You know? So, and also because the film is so much about joy and community and like letting your freak flag fly, it just felt like watching it alone in your house was not really the optimal way to watch this movie.
Yeah.
So we decided to do what we called the Joyful Vampire Tour of America. And in the summer of 2019, we moved into an RV for 3 months, and we drove 13,001 miles around the country, and we did 51 screenings in 40 cities in 90 days.
Oh my goodness. I mean, getting over 4 years spent making the film.
Yeah.
You hop in an RV to go promote it. Party style. That's incredible.
I mean, indie filmmaking is not for the faint of heart, I will tell you.
I say, and in fact, even as you bring that up, being that this did not feel at all like an indie film. I am a huge fan of rom-coms. I love them. I don't know what, I love them. I love them.
Me too.
And
Me too.
the minute I read the synopsis of this film, and I was just like, okay, this is interesting. I still knew I wanted to see it. And so, watching it, I immediately fell in love. It has everything your big Hollywood rom-com would have, but still so endearing. And it was all done on an indie budget. I found that absolutely fascinating. And you brought up that one of the reasons that it led to this film, which I would like you to expand on a little bit more, was the Princess Diaries. When I heard this, I was like, okay, I can see a vampire rom-com heading into it. Okay, let's hear this.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. It needs a little explanation. So when I was 13, I went to go see The Princess Diaries in a movie theater. And I was a very weird kid, and I had like seriously bushy hair. I had buck teeth and braces and glasses and acne, like just like the whole thing. And I just remember watching that movie. And of course, in the beginning of the movie, for those of you who don't remember it, a younger Anne Hathaway is supposed to be the weird girl because they've like kind of messed her hair up a little bit and they've put glasses on her.
Because that's the definition of a nerd, is you mess up
Right.
your hair and put on glasses or braces, and then you're set. Yeah.
Right. But she still looked like Anne Hathaway.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember having this moment of looking at her and being like, oh my God, if she's a weirdo, I am not on the chart.
Exactly.
It was a very painful moment. And then, of course, the film goes on to, she gets a makeover, and when she gets a makeover, the guy finally notices her winning personality. And it was just like kind of a traumatizing film for me.
Wow, like I said, it's a fun film for me, but yeah, as you approach it that way, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I completely understand.
And so when I grew up and became a filmmaker, I kind of had this like seed in me of like, I want to make a film where the girl is actually weird and she doesn't have to change who she is to find love.
So you pulled a Lin-Manuel with this, I have to say. You decided not only to write and direct, but also star in it. How do you handle wearing all three hats when it comes to creating your own film?
So I should clarify, I didn't direct it. Meredith directed
that's
it.
a writer. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So I wrote and acted and produced.
I'm sorry, produced. That's what it was. It was produced, not directed. Still three hats, still amazing.
Still a lot.
How did you balance all of that, being on set, to run lines, to handle anything behind the scenes and handle any rewrites if there were any? How did you do it?
So I believe very much in sort of segmenting these roles as much as possible. I mean, I love doing all three roles because it means that you get to be involved in the whole process, from the moment of conception all the way through to the end. But I write a script and then, so I'm a writer, and then I rewrite scripts an insane amount of times. Like I rewrote this one 45 times over 3 years as we were getting into production. So then I'm rewriting. So that kind of crossfades with the producer hat, right? But I've already, those things are easy to do at the same time because you do them at different times of the day and whatever. And then, but I have a rule for my films that a month before the filming begins, I take off my producer hat, and I always have at least one amazing producing partner, and like they become the producer for that time. And I take off my writer hat because rewrites should be done at that point.
Yes.
God. And I switch into actor mode, and from that day until the day after we wrap, unless someone is literally on fire, like no one is allowed to come to me with a producer question.
Like parenting. Honestly.
Right, exactly. Someone's on fire, come talk to me. Otherwise, I don't want to hear about it. But it's really important because acting, and particularly playing the lead in that's a big thing all its own. And it's a very, very different headspace you have to get into. And I just can't hold that space and do the job I need to do if I'm also worrying about like, oh my God, we just lost this location. And why is that person leaning on that wall? And like these things,
Makes sense. So I felt as I'm watching, like the camaraderie on set must have been amazing. With how did the casting come about? I know you, unless you add casting director on there, did you have a say? Oh, of course. How did you choose who came aboard for this project?
Yeah. I'll talk about casting in a minute, but to address your first point, our executive producer, Jack Kletchner, has this theory of film that the story of every film becomes the story of the making of that film. And which is generally proves to be pretty accurate. but so this one is like essentially a story about a lovable bunch of weirdos who like come together and have a good time and like feel accepted and seen. And that's exactly what Set was like. It was like this total giant band of weirdos being like, oh my God, we can be weird together.
Yay, that makes for a perfect set. That makes for a perfect set. And I mean, some of the people you got, Naomi Grossman, we've got to talk to her. In fact, we're talking to her on Sunday. She's a hometown girl from Taos here in New Mexico.
Oh yeah.
And it was funny. I went in reading the synopsis, but did not go in knowing who was in it. So just seeing who you landed in this movie, I thought, wow. And everybody was wonderful. Everybody was wonderful in the film. I'm guessing what, as you said, what we felt on set is what we saw in that film.
Totally. And we got, I mean, I can't overstate how lucky we got with this cast. I mean, as you said, everyone just absolutely nails their part. And you know, we were casting name actors for 3 of the roles, meaning like famous, you know, people recognizable actors, which is a really hard process as an indie film, like a little indie film, because you don't actually get to audition those people. Because the agents won't let you. It's like a power play thing. So they'll be like, you can offer this person the part, but you can't audition them.
So you have no idea how wow, that's kind of scary as an indie filmmaker.
Super scary.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, you obviously, because they're a known actor, you can watch their past work, but you also don't know if they're going to be an asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like impossible to work with, or, you know, and the biggest danger there was that we were casting James, the male lead in the film, as a name actor. And so we weren't going to get to do a screen test between the 2 of us. And as any rom-com lover knows, if the 2 leads don't have chemistry, your film is toast.
Yep.
Like it doesn't matter how good anything else is, the film's not going to work. And so we had this kind of scary gamble of, you know, we wanted to offer Christian the part, but we couldn't audition him. And so finally we got his agent to let us have a meeting with Christian. Not an audition, but a meeting. And so it was decided that I needed to be the one to go to this meeting to like covertly suss out if it seemed like we might have chemistry. Which is a very awkward thing to try to do, I can tell you.
Oh my goodness. But it all paid off.
But after that meeting, I was like, okay, I think this is going to be okay. And then it was great.
And this is not your first film. You know, you've had one prior to this. So what did you learn from your first film that you carried on to the second that was probably the biggest lesson for you?
That's amazing. Nobody's actually ever asked me that question before. So my first film, Imagine I'm Beautiful, we made for $80,000. It was like a very small deal, and we made Bite Me for $500,000. So it was like a big leap up. So a lot of Bite Me was such a big learning experience in terms of engaging more with like the Hollywood system in certain ways, and sort of like what happens when you're dealing with famous actors and all these things, and just like more people on set. But I think that the thing that we did, I'm super proud of Imagine I'm Beautiful. And I think the thing that we instinctively got right was that we always picked people who were not only talented, but were like really good people. And we did that again on Bite Me. And I feel like that's like 90% of the thing, because like filmmaking is hard and set is hard. And like, if you have people who are power playing or, you know, like causing drama or creating unnecessary difficulty or are just like jerks, it's going to be awful.
It just brings down the morale of the set and the experience altogether.
Yeah.
So I like that you looked at it from the side of, because you could look at it from talent only and, oh, they said these lines great, no, they're going to work out. But I like the aspect of, no, I want them to be that kind of person that's getting up in the morning to do this and excited about it and not feeling like, oh, I'm here again. Right. I think that's a great way to look at it.
And also who like loves the project in some way, like that it actually speaks to them and they care about what you're doing, because like the danger actually of jumping up to the 500,000 version is that people are actually getting paid. I mean, not well, but you know,
I get it.
you know, but like, you know, their paychecks. So like in an $80,000 film, nobody's there who doesn't like love what you're doing, you know? But when you jump up, it actually changes, because there are people who will just take the paycheck. So it was also about figuring out like who are the people who are passionate about this story specifically, this group of people. Because again, if you have somebody just clocking in and clocking out, it's going to bring down the whole set.
Exactly. So right now the film is going to be, it's actually streaming now. What platforms can we find it on?
So it's on iTunes, Apple TV, Amazon, and Google Play.
Ooh-wee, congrats. Congratulations.
And if I can just make a little pitch about this. So
please.
I get that everyone's paying for a lot of subscription streaming platforms now, and that the idea of spending even $2.99 to like rent something that isn't just included in a subscription is like mentally difficult at this point. However, let me tell you about the streaming platforms. They are killing indie film, and they are specifically because of specifically that, because people like are very reluctant to pay for content that isn't just included in the streamers now. But those streamers are controlled by 5 corporations who are deciding all of the content that you get to see. So on top of the age-old Hollywood problem of like 95 of them being white dudes, of who they pick, there's also this like mass corporatization of content selection. So like you are actually receiving fewer and narrower perspectives in a certain way than you ever have before.
Wow.
So if you want different voices, if you want to hear from different perspectives, you're gonna have to pay the $2.99 to get stuff that isn't part of those streaming platforms.
Well, if we're learning anything, even from like the Spotify situation that's happening right now,
Yes.
Because I was not aware about how much the artist was getting as compared to the bigger names that might be a problem to have on the platform in the first place. So I think it's definitely something more to invest in than just, you know, oh, well, it's there, so I'll just watch whatever's there. And and this is definitely, like I said, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every minute of it. I was like, okay, how indie is this? But I loved every minute. I was like, I loved the end. Everything was great. It was the perfect rom-com. You did an excellent job. What do you have planned? I mean, what's next for you?
So two things sort of front. So Christian Colson, who plays James in the film, and I have actually now co-written a TV series version of Bite Me that we're shopping around. So hopefully we'll get to make that. And then we just set shoot dates for my 3rd feature film for March of 2023, which is called Hammond Castle. And it's a magical realism piece about a 7-month pregnant woman who gets locked overnight in a castle full of famous ghosts.
Oh my. I'm going to have to pick your brain on how that comes out. Definitely going to have to pick your brain on that one. Naomi, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Congratulations on the film. And everyone, please go out, watch this, pay the $2.99. It is worth it. I'm telling you, it's worth it. Thank you again for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I'm going to watch it again today. Good luck to you on future endeavors, and I hope to talk again soon.
I would love that. Thank you again.
Thank you.
This is your New Mexico Entertainment in 60. The second largest event in Albuquerque, Pride Fest, is back for Pride Month. The celebration starts with a parade down Central Avenue, ending at the Expo New Mexico Fairgrounds. Pride Fest is on June 11th in Albuquerque. The Tequila, Taco, and Cerveza Fest features a diverse selection of Mexican beers, tequilas, margaritas, and tasty tacos for you and the amigos to enjoy. Tequila, Taco, and Cerveza Fest is on July 16th in Las Cruces. TEDx Albuquerque is back, bringing inspirational talks to the public. introducing new ideas and perspectives to elevate community engagement, connection, and enthusiasm for the future. TEDx Albuquerque is on July 30th at the African American Performing Arts Center in Albuquerque. This has been your New Mexico Entertainment in 60. For more on events and entertainment, visit nmentertains.com.
Thank you for tuning in to this month's episode of New Mexico Entertainment Television, where you continue to be in the know.
Join us next month as we cover our August issue.
Have a great night.
For more events and entertainment, visit nmentertains.com.